Okay. I am the president for St. Mary Parish Water and Sewer Commission, number 2, which is Bayou Vista. Okay. We're doing this meeting via a video teleconference due to our inability to have a quorum if we tried to meet in person. So I'll call a meeting to order, and we will have a roll call. Mr. Tony Hankins?
Here.
All right, Mr. Thomas Philbrook?
Here.
Mr. Paul Tholen?
Here.
All right, Mr. Donald Lance is absent from this meeting. Okay, also Mr. Larry Fromenthal, or District Plumber?
Present.
Mr. Reed Miller, or District Engineer?
Here.
Also have Miss Melanie Caillouette, also our engineer from Providence.
Here.
Also have Mr. Thomas Gordella, or the district maintenance supervisor.
Here.
All right, and also our administrative support, Miss Alexis Hartman.
I'm here.
Okay. All right, board members, you should have your packets included was the minutes from our previous board meeting. If you haven't had an opportunity to review those.
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as so written and dispense with the reading of them.
All right, I got a motion from Mr. Tony Henskins to accept the minutes as written and dispense with the reading. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a second from Mr. Paul Tholen. Is there any discussion? All right, I'll do a roll call vote. All right, Mr. Thomas Philbrook?
Approved.
All right. Mr. Paul Tholen?
Approved.
And Mr. Tony Henskins?
Approved.
All right, motion passes. Minutes have been approved. Okay, next up on the agenda, approval of the accounts payable. Board members, in your packet, you should have the payables due.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
All right, I got a motion from Mr. Thomas Philbrook to pay the bills. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I got a second from Mr. Tony Henskins. Okay, is there any discussion? All right, there's no discussion. I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Paul Tholen?
Approved.
Thomas Philbrook?
Approved.
And Mr. Tony Henskins?
Approved.
All right, motion passes. We'll pay the bills. All right, next up, I've got Mr. Larry Fromenthal, District Plumber, for a plumbing report. Mr. Larry?
Yes. We had a water tap that was done this month on Victoria Riverside. We did complete David Road and also the flush valve on Pluto. We poured concrete so that can be put back into operation. We also serviced the towers, the altitude pilot controls. and did the maintenance on those particular altitude valves. And that was pretty
Right.
much everything for the month.
Okay, Mr. Larry, did you also have some insight, feedback from the fire department? Did they do a maybe a sample of the fire hydrant testing?
Yes, I did speak to them a few times during the testing because they needed some other information. They have done the test and they will give us the report, which I think within the 30 days, I think we should get it back. And I'll have another meeting with them because they do need to know some line sizes and some other stuff to put in their report.
Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, next up, Mr. Reed Miller, any updates?
The only update I have is on the Arlington Street project. That contract, as you well know, has been delayed just due to the COVID-19, but I've been in contact with him. And last email I had from him, he expects to be on site before the end of May. So we should see him out in the next few weeks.
All right, Mr. Miller, appreciate that. All right, Ms. Melanie, anything to report?
Right now, we are waiting on the final retainage payment for the Tintour lift station recoding. The holdup is getting the clear lien certificate from the courthouse. That is due to the COVID, that things are taking some time. But we did get the actual request for retainage payment in, but as soon as we get the clear lien certificate, we'll actually process it.
Okay.
And do you want to discuss the SCADA report that I sent it to you earlier today?
Well, I unfortunately I wasn't able to push that out to all the board members yet, but it looks like it's got a lot of good details and just some things that obviously we're gonna have to look into that may show possibly some needed maintenance. But if you could maybe allow us to push that out to of course, or a maintenance section, and I can push a copy to the board members, and just look like a pretty good thorough report. It kind of allows us to get a little bit of analysis. We've got the day-to-day monitoring that Mr. Fromenthal is able to provide, and then also Mr. Gardella. However, sometimes we run into those a lot of different things going on a lot of different times. So it's good to have you give us the insight as to some of the analysis as far as things we need to look at. So if you want to mention a couple of the high points, by all means.
Okay. Looking at the data, I looked at the last two major rainstorms, which was on April 28th and on May 8th. And what I did was, first of all, I wanted to make sure that the pumps at each station was indeed alternating like they were supposed to, and y'all weren't relying on one and not the other. And all of the stations appear to be operating like it's supposed to in that respect. The other thing that I did was I started comparing the start times as well as the run times for each station during dry weather versus during those the days of those two storms. And so what we found was, I do have some concerns about the South Road station. That one, back in March, the amount of times that the pump station started the pumps started each day actually doubled, but the run times were cut in half. So it didn't really make sense to me. And with that amount of start times, it put that the pumps were kicking on every 6.5 minutes. So I think that would be a great place for the maintenance to go and look and see if there's something going on at that station. It may even be in the SCADA system itself that's not picking it up correctly. So that's something that definitely needs to be investigated. The others, Boy Blue is probably the one that I have the most concern about in regards to infiltration and inflow. And that's because during wet weather storms, you're looking at 4 to 4.5 times the amount of water being pumped through there on those days versus a dry weather day. And on the April 28th shower, it took 4 days for that station to get back to normal dry weather flows. So that is definitely something you need to look at, and that could be done first with smoke testing, and then if that doesn't show anything major, like gutters going to cleanouts or cleanouts being completely open, then maybe Mr. Larry could start looking at your mains with the cameras and seeing if there's some major cracks or breaks in your or disjointed pipes in your actual mains. But that is probably your worst system that you have right now, as from what I could tell here. Then, of course, you have your middle road station. With middle road, that one, my concern there is that you have both pumps. Usually when a station runs, you have one pump that runs and then it shuts off, and then the next time that the water gets high, the next pump runs. And usually only when you have a rainstorm with a high inflow and infiltration rate do you have both pumps running at the same time. And on the middle road station, there were times that during dry weather, you had both pumps running. And so that makes me curious as to why you have such a high influx of water even during dry weather in those times. And also, are your pumps running at capacity? And if they are running at capacity during dry weather, how much more water can you pump during wet weather, and can it handle, with the other inflow and infiltration coming in from other sections? So those are the things that really popped up when we were looking at it. Please look at the chart that I gave to you guys. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to call me. I am on my cell phone right now working from the house, and that is I do have my cell phone in my signature block of my email. So if y'all need it, just email me and I'll pop you back an email with all of my contact information right now.
All right, we definitely appreciate that, Ms. Melanie. Obviously, just for the edification of the public, we have 10 total lift stations for the district, and we're currently looking at a project list for possibility of doing some infrastructure projects. So, I think it's a good time for us to check it out. And Mr. Larry, especially if that station is concerned, check with that infiltration and the possibility that maybe a project would needed work in that area. Okay, thank you. And
Mr. John, real quick, I have a question in regards to the statements that were just made. And this might be unrelated, but I see a note where the fire department underwent their annual fire hydrant inspections. Is there a possibility that, if they were turning on these fire hydrants and they were getting some readings at some of these stations, that these two situations could be tied together?
Well, that's a good point. But since this is on the, I hate to say back end of things, and there'll be, flushing water turning on, it shouldn't infiltrate the sewer system. Mr. Larry, you may have some input.
Yes, this report that Melanie just gave was actually done on information before they did the testing. They just finished the test at the end of last week, so it didn't have anything to do with hers.
If the testing was done at the end of last week, there was nothing noticeable on the sewer lift station reports on the SCADA system. I would have noticed it if it would have shown up.
That's correct.
But definitely a good point, because we do a lot of preparation when they do the fire hydrant testing, where we basically make sure the towers are full. We kind of check on different projects we got going on to where we can accommodate the testing to make sure those hydrants have the pressure in the water needed to conduct the test. So a good point. All right. Thank you, Ms. Melanie. Next, I'll go maintenance report. Mr. Thomas Gordella. Maybe a few brief points on maintenance.
Yeah, good evening. Obviously, we're dealing with the pandemic, and also the idea is to keep social distancing at hand and staying safe. And by doing so, the 4 sewer buildings that we do have, we've decided to keep the fans running 24/7 in there. That way, when we do have a maintenance worker go inside of them, they feel a little bit safer upon using gloves and their masks. Outside of that, like I said, keeping the trucks and everything, the equipment clean. We've worked on the Saturn Tower, the workshop. It's been cleaned and pressure washed, along with the slabs and all the old meter registers to be sent off. And speaking of the old meter registers, we've put 140 into the new system, the new ones, out of the 200 that we've just recently purchased at the last actual meeting we had. Other than that, locates have become our responsibility with the amount of time that we've had, because reading has now been cut down to less than 7 working days, meter reading, compared to in the past when it took most of the month. Other than that, we continue to take our samples, which have been all approved of by the DHH. Everything's been going well. Needless to say, other than what's going on with everything else in the world. So, but yeah, other than that, that's about it.
All right, definitely appreciate that, Mr. Cordell. I just want to make a note to everyone that can that's online, or, board members also, that, samples are 7-day a week job, taking the samples or to maintenance and or administrative personnel. They really haven't had a day off. Weekends are on call. So that's all to the hard work they've been doing. They are essential. If they don't work, we don't have water. We don't have waste, waste water services. So in order to keep your faucets on, keep your toilets flushing, we've done, Mr. Terrio, Ms. Hartman, and of course, Ms. Lumbas, and continue just keeping operations going. Have some challenges, but y'all been really doing an outstanding job. I just want to make that remark.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey,
Any old business? Okay.
Yes, I have a couple of things that was on the agenda. I did service the towers for the for the main pilot, and some of the other valves and all that was on there. Our main valve that controls the altitude valve, I normally keep a seal kit for the 182 tower and the Saturn Street tower on hand, because it does take a while to order. I do need to get a set, and I think y'all had approved it a while back, but with all this going on, I never did get those ordered. Do y'all want me to still get those so we can have? Now, these are very imperative to have, because if them towers go down, I need those to actually get into that piston and actually replace the seals and all that. And it takes me about 3 to 5 months to get those seals from Golden Anderson. So I do need to have approval to order.
Larry, why we gave the approval to order them a while back, because they're very, very important to have on hand on the shelf, because when we need them, okay?
Yes, I will get them on order. That's why I want to make sure with all this going on, it can be done.
It's confirmed, right?
Okay.
Yeah, confirmed.
And also, we have a sewer leak that's on 1201 Tesh in Bellevue that was brought up, and I put my camera into the system. There is an issue with it, and it does need to be addressed. There is a problem with where the clean out ties into the customer's line, and possibly further back the camera showed some other issues, and it is retaining water and paper in that line. So it does need to be addressed.
You have
What kind of time frame we looking at to get it? I mean, I know it's a shot in the dark, but just in general, you know.
It's probably going to take me probably about 3 to 4 days to probably do the project because of where it's located.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, it needs to be done. The rest of the board has to decide.
so when you say you could get like started like next week to complete the project?
Yes, I can schedule next week to begin.
That's Tesh in Bellevue, you think?
Tesh and Bellevue. It's actually on Tesh. It's at that corner, but it's 1201 Tesh. It's the address.
Isn't that where we had problems before?
No, these people have been having issues, and they contacted various sources to it. Finally, reached down to the actual sewer district, and y'all gave me approval to put the camera in. But these people have this line that we talk about is a main line that controls some houses at that dead end. Everybody back, not just one customer.
Had issues there before. And as far as I'm concerned, I think we need to address it. You know, not gonna get any.
You have a ballpark estimate, Mr. Larry?
I sure don't, not until I get into it, because I'm not real sure. I know where the clean out's at and the camera show, but once I ran into the water that's in the system and the paper, your camera can only see what like your eyes can see. And it had a good amount in there that was at that point. And it's a matter of time before it completely plugs up, and those customers will be without full service.
So if the board wants to amend the agenda to vote on the decision to do the repair at 1201 Tesh in Bellevue.
I'll make that motion, Tony.
All right, I got a motion from Mr. Tony to agenda the agenda to go ahead and consider repair of the sewer line 1201 Tesh. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I got a second from Mr. Paul Tholen to amend the agenda, all right, to consider repair of the sewage line at 1201 Tesh. Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote to amend the agenda. Mr. Thomas Philbrook.
Approved.
Mr. Paul Tholen.
Approved.
And Mr. Tony Henskins.
Approve.
All right. So we have approved. Motion passes to amend the agenda to consider the repair of sewage line at 1201 Tesh. And what I would be interested before we actually seek that motion, I would, since we don't really have we're kind of trying to work on it quick, fast, in a hurry, get it done. I would like, or maintenance lead, Mr. Thomas Gordello, to kind of be, in that area if possible, to just, get just the quality assurance report from the district, once you start. So if, that would be my thought, Mr. Larry, is that before we, talk to motion, if he can be included on, your schedule on when you'll be working on that, which giving him a heads up on what day.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, so do I have a motion from the board to go ahead and make necessary repairs to the sewage line 1201 Bellevue?
I'll make that motion, Tony.
All right, I got a motion from Mr. Tony. Do I have Tony Henskins? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I got a second from Mr. Paul Tholen. Any discussion? All right, the roll call vote. Mr. Thomas Philbrook, how do you vote?
I approve.
All right, Mr. Paul Tholen
Approved.
and Mr. Tony Henskins.
Approve.
All right, motion passes. All right, Mr. Larry, if I just ask you to let Mr. Gardella know, once you commence, get started, so he can, give us some oversight. Appreciate it. All right, any other old business? Okay, new business. On the agenda, we have for the months billing period of March, which the bill was due in April, the billing period of April, which the bill was due, I take that back, billing period of February that was due in March, billing period of March that was due in April. We went ahead and waived the late charges, and we also suspended disconnects. So just putting out to the board, you may have seen that the governor's gonna go ahead and end his stay-at-home order on Friday. So if y'all want to consider continuing for the month of May, which before his stay-at-home order was being lifted, I just felt there was due to economic impact that we suspend the late fees and suspend disconnects for the bills for April that are due this month. Okay, so that's the current. Everybody got their bill. They got to pay them. This month. Do y'all want to consider that? And do you also want to consider the bill for this month that's going to be due in June? So just put it in front of the board for your thoughts before, or if you want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue to suspend the late fees and disconnect payments for another month.
Okay. So you want to do it. So we were talking about for the bills that are due in May and the bills that are going to be due in June?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. I got a first and a second for a motion to go ahead and suspend the late fees and the disconnects for the bills that are due the month of May and also for the month of June. Is there any discussion? Okay, and the only thing I'm going to say is it's really not as much to the board members, but to the, we got 1,800 accounts. If you do receive water services from us, well, you're going to have to figure out a way to catch them up. It's tough times, it's unfortunate, but, we're waiving fees, we're waiving disconnects. You just have to, once we're, back online, I would say probably the next billing cycle, the bills that are due in July, the expectation is that we need to get caught up. All right, so got any more discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. All right, Mr. Paul Tholen.
Approve.
Mr. Thomas Philbrook.
Approved.
And Mr. Tony Henston. Mr. Tony?
Approval.
All right. Okay, so motion passes. All right. The only other new business that we had was that we did go ahead and the fire department did their annual underwriting hydrant inspection. It really will be probably within the next 30 days. I'll probably have a report on that. Other than that, if there's no other business to discuss, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion to adjourn. Tony Henskins.
All right. I got a motion from Ms. Tony Henskins to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
that motion.
All right. I got a second from Mr. Paul Tholen to adjourn. Any discussion? All right. Roll call vote. Mr. Thomas Philbrook.
Approved.
Paul Tholen.
Approve.
Tony Henskins.
Approval.
All right, without no further business, the meeting is officially adjourned. For streaming this.